Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, or team up against a guest and battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Please enjoy part 1. Hello, Podderoonies, or Podsters, if you prefer. We have quite a crowd this week as Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 is out in the cinemas. We are very, very excited for this one. I know me and Boaz are. We are talking animated films, and we have guests again, people. It's very exciting. A returning guest, our first guest we had across the pond, and it's the World of Horror podcast. Woo-hoo! Christina, Mac, and new to the podcast, Quinn. How are you guys?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm super stoked.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Cool.
It's our pleasure.
And of course, I am joined by our very own shoulder-touching fluorescent serpent, Mr. Boaz Dix. How are you, sir?
Yeah. Hey. Yeah, good.
Hey. Good. I do hope you don't do this shoulder touch thing with girls.
No.
Hey.
Guys, it's so lovely to have you guys back on. Tell us about your podcast and where can we find you?
Oh, you can find us everywhere. We're all over the internet. Any place you get your pods.
They're right behind you.
What we do is we take a genre or subgenre of horror and we pair an international film with an American film, except when Quinn is on, and then we just do whatever the hell we want because she's the only one of us who has any real credentials. And then we just talk about Hitchcock films or any other piece of media we want to talk about. But yeah, check us out. And once you do, you will be an official WOHO.
And what's the name?
World of Horror Podcast.
Whoa.
Whoa.
So, guys, what do we think of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1? Thoughts, people?
So good.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I do have some concern. I mean, it looks very colourful as the first one, even more so. I mean, it looks insane from the trailers. My only issues is that it's a part 1 of a 2-part film story, which is never entirely successful from other franchises, so that does worry me a little bit. And also, just it seems to be that like a Spider-Man character is going to be the villain of this story.
Yeah. Which
I don't know how I sit with that. So, but other than that, I'm very excited for this film.
I don't get part 1s and part 2s.
Yeah, I don't really. I don't mind it with Dune, though. That's, the part 2 is coming because Dune part 1 was very good. So,
yeah.
Obviously, we'll find out with that one. Boaz, excited for this one?
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it looks pretty cool. Yeah, I have good feelings.
Are you guys Spider-Man super fans?
Oh, yeah.
Boaz is, yeah.
I am, to a great degree. Yeah, so I love all the Spider-Man movies. I think Spider-Man is either one of, if not my favorite superhero. I used to collect Spider-Man comics when I was younger, so I got quite a lot of issues and stuff. I used to watch a lot of the cartoons. I'm really big into Spider-Man, so,
That's awesome.
And like a load of games as well, like loads and loads of the game. So it's big part of my childhood.
So you excited for this one, Christina?
Yeah. This is, I saw Into the Spider-Verse with Mac, I think, in the theater. And it might have been at Quinn's suggestion, actually. Yeah, I'm big into animation films. And I think whenever you get the opportunity to see one in the cinema, it is a treat.
And this one is just like, there's so much style in it. And not that I love animated films, but I feel like as the technology has gotten maybe more like accessible, which is a good thing, there's just a lot of like really bland ones, but this one is so unique.
It like stands out, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many ways they could have done it, like just classical sort of 2D animation or anime, or sort of like like an early sort of Disney movie, or 3D animation. These are all very popular modes, and they've gone with this. I think it's kind of interesting because it's based on a comic book, and so you do this very, again, comic booky panels, and it looks like the texture of paper, and it's just so, it's just so comic booky, and it's so weird that you don't see that. And I just think it's so obvious yet so unique.
I think mixed media is such a good idea. Like, you can tell part of it is 3D, but then, like you said, there's so much texture, and then the way that they've moved it is not as like just seamlessly fluid as other I think places try to do.
Yeah, it looks like a flip book, like you're flipping through it, and then and it does have this a 3D quality, but just again not quite. And then what's this other thing? Like everything has edges and borders around it, which is kind of crazy because it looks like it's drawn, which you try and avoid that in animation. But I just think I think it's just brilliant. It there is just a sort of like a tactile feeling from it. It's very hard to describe. I think it's quite unique.
Yeah.
But I think it definitely represents the media that it's pulling from. So I think it's incredibly interesting.
Apparently the filmmakers were saying that they're using like 6 different types of animation style.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
For this film. So
that's amazing.
I mean, I don't know how that's going to work, but they do it a little bit in Into the Spider-Verse with a few animation styles. So yeah, it'll be interesting how all the others fit in.
I think especially with the pig, the pig comes across as like everything to do with him is very Disney cartoon, or whatever, or like Looney Tunes. I think that's a very distinctive, animation style for him. I think that's going to get pretty insane for the next one. Then, if they're going to do like every Spider-Man is done in a different way, but
it'll be interesting to see how like fluid that will work. How that will look really.
Yeah, because I think they have a pretty good balance of this film, and there is such a thing as too much of a good thing.
That is my fear.
If they go like too overboard, you're just like, whoa, shit! There's so much, So they need to like rein themselves in a little. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I like what you said, Boaz, what you said about, like, I don't know, just the reference to an actual comic book and sort of the seamlessness of watching the film and having this feeling that you have it in front of you and that you're flipping through. And then I love how it's, it just is such a pastiche and like self-referencing in terms of like the dark backstory, the similar dark backstories from all of these like characters, and that like always just makes me, I don't know, that makes me so happy with this movie. I think it's one of a kind, mind blowing. I'm really excited for you.
So our choice then for animated films, Boaz, we went for Kubo and the Two Strings. When I first saw this, I thought it was pretty incredible. It's first of all, it's just stunning. To look at.
It is.
It really is. And I didn't want to go with like any Pixar films because we've done an awful lot of Pixar films on this podcast. So, we've done 2 episodes, like Toy Story 2, both Incredibles films, WALL-E, Luca, to name but a few that we've covered already. So I didn't want to do Pixar. And the other choice that I was interested in watching was Akira.
Classic.
Yeah. So I'm very interested in seeing that. Hopefully we'll cover that one in the future.
Yeah, we should do that in the future. I've never actually watched Akira, so I need to.
It's so good.
Need to crack on with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very gory.
Yeah. I've seen a couple of clips of that. So I think when you asked which one I would prefer, I was like, I've never watched Akira. I've heard it's good. I've seen a few clips. But I was just like, I'm not really in the mind space to watch dark shit right now. So, like, so I was like, I'll just watch something a little cuddlier, and maybe if I feel a little more inclined some other time, whatever.
Well, this film is a tad dark in places, I would say.
It is a tad dark in places, yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I love that you picked a Studio Leica film kind of over a Pixar film. Because again, Pixar's great, but I just think Studio Leica should get more recognition because they're doing just something that like basically nobody else is doing.
Yeah.
And even though it's like not profitable, they're still going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything they do is great.
Yeah, I just think it's crazy where you're like, this is stop motion. Like, I have to like stop myself every scene and just go, holy shit, they actually constructed this like by hand. You're like, what the hell? And they could have made it easy on themselves, but they do the most tricky, you know, difficult, intricate shots they can possibly, you know, and put, you know, as much effort and effects as they. And you're like, you did this all by hand. You could have done this via computer. This would have been so much easier.
Well, there is a bit of CGI work in there. There's a combination.
I think that's what makes it more artistic, you know. Yeah, okay, there's probably some stuff that helps, you know, but most of it is just like, is constructed. It's done by hand. It's done painstakingly. It's done in an old-fashioned way. I think, to me, I think it makes it way more impressive and, you know, more artistic, you know.
Yeah, I feel like art gets its value when you can tell that that somebody made it. And I like animated films, but the way that they're trying to make things too perfect, and it's like, that's not the point. Like, you know, I want to see that somebody did it, you know?
That hand craftsmanship aspect.
Yeah. But, you know, I just love, I think it really adds to the quality if, you know, like there was effort and there was even suffering, you know, like if there was suffering for that art, you're like, that took some time, that took effort, that took sweat, that took blood. Yeah. And I always respect that. So any filmmaker, like, say, you know, if they use stunt doubles, like going through walls or, you know, Nolan, he actually builds sets.
Stuntmen are going to die making this film.
Yeah, you know, or, you know, so like stuntmen. So I think, like, what was it? When we were talking, when we did an episode on John Wick 4, I'm just like, they actually used real stuntmen. And they, like, I'm sure half of these guys are dead. But you're like, they didn't need to. And to me, that makes every scene even better. And then, like, Nolan as well. I love Nolan. And the fact that he'll actually build the sets. Doesn't have to. He'll build this. It just makes it better. I think if you make things hard for yourself, you know, it could be, you could get the same result doing it easier, cheaper, quicker, using the current technology. But I think if you just, you rein yourself in and you actually put the effort in, you can sense it. You can sort of feel it. I think you've got to add that to the experience, not just like the images and how it looks or whatever. But
so you're saying the animators lost all their fingers after making this?
Yeah, probably. Or, you know, or they, you know, they've definitely. I think they've definitely lost like memories they'll never get back. They could have been spending time with their kids, seeing them grow, but they spent months in a.
They've lost relationships. Yeah.
Exactly, they spent months in a warehouse, just like moving this guy, and you just think, yeah, I think it's unbelievable.
They're like, I am not working with samurai swords again.
yeah.
But also, animated films they have to be so intentional anyway, but it seems like with stop motion, you have to be super, super, like, intentional with everything. I heard that it took 5 years, and that makes sense, from, you know, start to finish.
Jesus.
Yeah, but you see, even hearing stuff like that, I just think that's phenomenal. I think I did hear it took quite a long time, but you're like, you know, they could have done it in a year, you know, using the methods that we do now. And you're like, they really took the effort. They took the time. And you're right. It's like, it flows so seamlessly. And there's so much detail, like how everybody moves. And you're like, that's hard enough to animate, to make everything look natural. But, you know, to actually, like, literally move a figure, to make everything, like every little hair, you know, hair blowing in the wind, you know, fabric, just everything. You're like, Jesus Christ, you know, the amount of attention.
So, Boaz, what happens in Kubo and the Two Strings?
So Kubo and the Two Strings is a story about Kubo, whose mother is a, like, moon princess. Her father is the Moon King, and she had a child with a legendary warrior called Hanzo. And the Moon King wants Kubo to live with him in the Moon Kingdom, but to do so, he wants to cut out his eyes. His parents aren't a fan of this, and so they try and hide.
Really?
Yeah, I know, crazy, right? So they try and hide Kubo in a Japanese village. She tells she's kind of like, her mental faculties are sort of fading, so she's not really quite there. And his father isn't there either. He believes he's dead. And one day he doesn't return home when it turns dark during a sort of ancestor festival, because he wants to speak to the spirit of his dad, which doesn't end up happening. When he's out in the dark, his moon family finds him. His aunties, moon princesses, they find him and try to abduct him, and his mother gives her life to protect Kubo, and then sends him on a journey to get these pieces of armor that can defeat the Moon King. And then he's aided by a monkey, basically a monkey, yeah, a talking monkey, and later a talking beetle, a samurai beetle. Kubo also has like the ability to like make origami with his guitar or whatever, so make it move and come alive and stuff. So on the journey, he gets really close to the beetle and the monkey, and he's fighting his aunties and all that stuff. And then later it's discovered that the monkey and the beetle are actually his mother and father, and they die, which is pretty sad. And then he retrieves all the pieces of the armor and takes on the Moon King, defeats him, but basically makes him human, and the community, and he kind of has his memory wiped, and then the community sort of make him basically appreciate humanity and become a regular person and stuff. He, says goodbye to his parents, and they embrace him, their spirits, and everything's happily ever after. Yeah.
Cool. So Quinn, initial reactions to this one?
Well, I hadn't seen it before, so I didn't, I'm going to be honest, sometimes I don't think that I give animation enough respect, and, I'm more apt to go see a narrative film, it more over than, not narrative, but a film with people than animation, even though I understand the history of animation and I do respect it so much, as its own beautiful genre, but I'm just more apt to say no to these. But sure. I was so glad to have watched this because I was just blown away. I'm obsessed with storytelling and the idea of stories. And I mean, from the very beginning, it's all about that and about these, the beautiful memories and the respect that we have for memory. And it was striking me as hilarious when we were talking about the idea that these people maybe locked themselves away in a warehouse for years and missed out on some of these memories. To celebrate this in a way is just so... It was a beautiful film for me, and I respect it so much more looking into the stop motion aspect of it. But just the memory and the storytelling and the importance of that, and the importance of like this sort of dying culture of oral tradition struck me really hardcore this watch. And I was just grateful to have watched it. I don't know that I would have seen it on my own. So I was blown away. I loved it.
Mac, initial reactions?
I was very blown away as well. I honestly did not know that this movie existed, but I probably, despite really loving animation and art, I don't know, I think I've maybe grown a little bit jaded kind of because of what we talked about earlier. Like, I think it takes maybe a little bit for me to actually like give something a chance, but I'm so glad that I gave this a chance because I don't know, it was so emotional. It made me cry. And as Quinn said, like the idea of memories living on forever and living on inside of us, and like, somebody's death not necessarily meaning that their life and everything is over, I think is beautiful. And from the first line being like, don't look away, I was like, okay, sure, I won't. And every scene is like a feast for the eyes. So thank you for recommending this, because I don't think I would have watched it otherwise.
Christina, initial reactions?
Yeah, I hadn't seen this either, so this was a first time watch for me as well. I am going to diverge from my SWAT a little bit. I wasn't initially hooked.
Okay.
But I became hooked by the end, and I did tear up by the end. But it took 2 watches for me to actually, like, I think fully appreciate it. I was a little confused by the storytelling, and I wasn't really sure what was going on with the grandfather at the end. I think I get it now. But some of the storytelling was a little bit confusing for me. But I love A Hero's Journey, and this is definitely one of those. And I thought the voice work was great. And yeah, I highly recommend it.
So, directing then, I loved the little show Kubo puts on to the crowd in this village, where he plays his guitar and like little paper origami figures come to life and play out this mythical story. But I like how we just accept without question that Kubo just has this magical powers, like Superman can fly. You know, 1, I think it's just how beautiful the sequence is, and 2, it's not like an outlandishly crazy power. You know, it somehow feels plausible in this world, and it fits so well with this animation style. Plus, I loved it towards the end when Hondo is slicing up creatures and lots of little bits of red paper symbolizing blood splurts out at everyone. That was funny. It also kind of has this festive feel to it as well. So I did kind of really, really enjoy that opening little
I thought that was
bit,
incredible.
just showing off Kubo's kind of magic powers.
Yeah, I like that. Just little details like the chicken getting its head cut off or whatever, and then George Takei in the crowd going, "Oh my!" Just
That was quite funny. Yeah.
I love the first time you see like the evil twin aunties, just that wide shot of them coming out of the mist on the lake is really creepy because you don't see them clearly at first, and it's just a very unnerving opening shot. Not everything is being like revealed with these characters. Plus the sunset lighting in this film is just gorgeous in that sequence, just for that especially. Yeah, the aunties I really loved. Brings very much a horror aspect to this film. Do you guys like the aunties in this?
Yeah, I thought they were really cool.
Yeah, I in general like just like found family versus like the bonds that we make, and the mother being, I don't know, like her statement of like, you're not my family, like this is my family. And I always just think that's a very beautiful idea, and like, yeah, it makes sense when you see them. You're like, yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, I like the masks as well. They're so creepy.
Because they don't see anybody.
Yeah, and I think I love the setup of his mother from his perspective in the beginning, and like the care that he takes with her and how she sort of comes alive in a quick moment and then sort of dissipates. And I thought this movie, I mean, enjoyed it immensely. It was very emotional. You know, it's not, it feels very tragic in a lot of ways. And I did like the visual representation of the evil ants. That was great. They were scary.
There was a couple of shots I really liked with them. So when like towards the end, was it Hanzo like cuts off like the bottom of the mask that goes flying off. That was really cool. I quite like that. You still don't see her eyes, but you still got this like fucking pale, like, you know,
snarl,
demonic sort of mouth. And so I thought that was really cool. And also when the first auntie dies, and you don't see the death, but you see like the mask split in half, and basically a camera shot from under the water, like through the mask and the deck of the ship that's all busted up. I really like that shot. I thought that was incredibly effective. Very, very Japanese. You know, it's like a stereo. You know, it's like it's so cinematic and so very Asian, like that cinematography. I really like that. I was also going to say, like, even at the opening of the film, it's shot from like the perspective of Kubo and his mother, and the camera's like riding the waves, and then that one wave that's so incredibly huge. I thought that was just that was amazing, and how she like uses her magic to dissipate it, and then she's struck by the other wave, and then hits her head. I just thought that whole sequence was amazing, and like to start a film with such an action-packed, quite a visually extravagant. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Like a lot of the water stuff is, I think, CGI, but they do it in such a way that they're referencing physical models. And because I watched a bit of the bonus stuff, and like they used a lot of like wheels and levers and things underneath like different materials to create a wave motion, and they use that as their reference. So
that's pretty cool.
Combining the two, it looks gorgeous, especially
absolutely.
in the opening. So it's just really interesting how they're really trying to do as much as they can practically from a practical sense in their basis of, using the CGI.
And I feel like that's the best application of CGI is when you enhance something else. Like, I feel like that is when CGI more comes alive than generating absolutely everything.
Yeah, I get that.
I love the last fight with Kubo battling his grandfather as this like fluorescent turquoise serpent thing. It looks so impressive that I didn't want Kubo to destroy it. And there's a great moment too where like Kubo creates the guitar thing again and is facing up to the serpent, and it's completely filling the frame, looking massive. And I just love the feel of Kubo. Like he's not afraid of anything in that moment. Like the whole sequence is just seamless and beautifully done. I mean, I wouldn't say it's particularly suspenseful or thrilling, but you more marvel at how simply beautiful the scene is, how it looks, and indeed the whole film, how beautiful the whole thing is. Yeah.
I would say like the first part of the fight is pretty suspenseful because like the grandfather isn't fucking around. He like kicks the shit out of Kubo, like knocks him across. You're like, Jesus Christ, it's pretty full on. And I like how Kubo did that sort of samurai thing where he like sliced through his midsection. Well, that was really cool.
Oh, yeah.
So, there was a lot of really cool action there.
Was that, like, at the start of that sequence?
Yeah, that was right at the start of the sequence, yeah. He, like, just kneels down and, like, yeah.
So it was kind of like, even if he did that, and he's still coming after him, you're like, oh, God, what's Kubo going to do?
Yeah, I know. He's, like, completely unstoppable.
And music becomes king. You can't music.
Yeah, I feel like the directing, I think, because... Not that I didn't like the writing, but I did find it very predictable. Like, as soon as I saw that, I mean, because I could hear it was the same voice actor as the mom. So I was like, okay, so that's the mom. And then when I saw the other guy and they were like kind of having a thing, I was like, so that's the dad. But
yeah, that's the dad. Yeah.
Yeah. Even though I could tell, I think because it's so beautiful and cinematic, like it didn't take away as much, but yeah. It did feel kind of like not a little bit. I was happily surprised by the end with what they did with the grandpa, but yeah.
Yeah, no. I can kind of completely agree. I'll go more into that when we get onto writing, but I do agree with that. I think they could have sort of like hidden that a lot more. Still a pretty good story, but yeah, I agree with you there. I also think kind of visually they could have hid it a lot more because like Hanzo. You know what Hanzo looks like. You've seen his, you've seen like obviously his colors, which Kubo wears. He wears like his old kimono. You've seen what Kubo thinks Hanzo looks like because they've got the origami, red thing. And then when you see the beetle, you're like, geez, he looks like the same, but just a beetle. It's like I would have completely redesigned it differently because I thought. That made it a little too easy to just guess that was Hanzo because I'm like, yeah, that's Hanzo. So I think that's from less a story point of view, but more a character. How they design the characters. I would have like just designed them completely differently. So it's more of a surprise.
I think what puts you off though with that is the fact that the guy's an idiot. So.
Yeah, the guy is an idiot.
It's like this guy can't be his father.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's almost like because we've talked about this on World of Horror, the Quinnisodes. Like, I'm not somebody that typically anticipates what's happening next. I just don't do it.
You just go with the flow. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was so obvious to me that I almost think it might be almost intentional in a way so that your emphasis, your care and detail to watching the film is maybe placed elsewhere, perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because especially with the mother, that voice, that's Charlize Theron, and you can hear the monkey speaking with and it's just, and I even was like, and that's his dad somehow, not knowing, the connection or the understanding how that is his dad. But, from the beginning when she said, your mother, the last thing your mother did was, she sacrificed herself and created me, or, gave life to me, and like, well, her.
I think you're probably wondering, like, how is she her? But maybe they'll explain that. I personally, I think I don't think it was intentional. I think it was just a sort of mistake on their part, because it does make you just go, like, just cut with the charade already, and just But I think it does make the romance in retrospect quite nice, because
it's cute.
The monkey and the beetle don't like each other to start with, and then slowly fall in love. So then you're like, oh shit, they were his parents. But I think that would have been better if they just they made the designs and the voices completely different. I think that's just such an easy thing for them to have done, where it would have literally been a surprise. So I do think that is a kind of big like negative, but I don't think it takes away from the film being amazing. But it's one thing I do wish they did differently.
Christina, favorite shot or scene for you?
I like the whole sequence with the skeleton creature and the swords coming out of its skull.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was really great, and they're just trying to break all the swords to find the sword unbreakable or whatever.
It's a pretty damn scary design as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that scene though, I'm just like, I think they're just looking for a normal sword. The other swords are just
that's true.
rubbish.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're not even normal swords. They're like made out of glass or something. Yeah.
They just give it one tap and it shatters half of them. It's like, I think they're just looking for a normal samurai sword, people.
Its body is really scary, but its face looks kind of dim or dumb, which I thought was an interesting character choice.
Yeah, I love like the first shot you get of it, because you have all the bones in the hand go up into the sky, and then they're all looking at it as like, what? And you look at it all go up into the sky, and then it's like almost immediate. It's like you have the light from its eyes, and it illuminates the creature, and you're like, holy shit, that thing is big. I love how they did that. It was really freaky. It generally was a pretty freaky entrance to that thing.
I kind of just like the fact that with the color design, that it's orange and it just kind of matches up really nicely with the green set that they've built. Just from a
color palette, exactly,
mise en scène point of view, to be wanky. That's good. Mac, favorite shot or scene?
I really liked the eyes in the water. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Oh yeah.
And then I liked the callback when they got to the where the helmet was, and you see everything on the wall. I don't know, that paired with all the stuff that they had seen before, I thought was a really nice touch. I just liked it when they were in peril.
Yeah.
Quinn?
This is just, it might be a cop-out because I don't know technically how amazing it is, but my favorite part is the end when, the villagers make the decision to just like arm this man that they know is evil with these memories. Good, solid, valuable memories that were not real, and he accepts them. And I don't know, I've never seen something like that done. It really touched me, because they have every reason in the world to be so angry with him, and to like ban him and tell him he was the biggest piece of trash in the world, but instead arm him with this goodness. And I just really loved it, the end, so much. It sort of really like tied everything together for me in terms of storytelling and memory, and the gifts that you can give each other by remembering things and telling those stories. And then I don't know, I loved it.
That part I was really surprised by. So I think that was so effective. And I think like the contrast between when he was the monster and he kept calling himself a monster, like he's like, what do you think? I'm this huge, scary monster now. And then he's actually this tiny, frail man. And they the humanity in them chooses not to treat him like the monster he thought he was.
But I also like the skeleton fight, and it really reminded me so much. I don't know, it doesn't make so much sense, but it reminded me of the Goonies a lot in that moment. That was gorgeous, and honestly, that was probably the part that grabbed me the most, if I was wavering at all in the beginning. But I was sucked in at that moment.
So I think mine, I think I already said, like, I my favorite shot, that's a difficult one. I think probably the her sister's like split mask. I think I already said that.
Oh, right, yeah.
That it was in the water. And I really like that shot. Rather than show her death, you just show that. I thought that was pretty cool. And my favorite scene is actually the prior fight on the boat.
Oh yeah, that's mine as well.
I just love that whole fight. I just think the whole fight scene is incredible. Really well choreographed.
Have any of you seen the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio?
No.
Oh, I haven't yet.
Not
I need
yet,
to.
no.
I wonder if he drew from that boat stuff. So when you guys all watch it, get back with me and let me know what you think. But I think that there might have been some callbacks to this movie in the sequence in Pinocchio.
That's definitely my favorite scene as well, and I feel like the choreography almost has a very grounded feel, like how you would expect a sword fight and an axe thing on a chain on it to be like, but mix that into this animated world, it feels so exciting to watch. Plus I love the sisters' faces, like they don't even move when they talk because they've got masks on. I love that. And I like how they change it up a bit. In the second fight at their home with the other sister, the fight is like less choreographed and it feels more brutal and emotional. And as you said, Boaz, because Kubo breaks the bottom part of the sister's mask, so you see the mouth moving. So it just kind of increases the emotional stakes in it a little bit. So I really like that. Directing score, World of Horror, what are you going for?
You go first, Mom.
7. Can we go in the 7 neighborhood? You want to go higher, Quinn?
I would go 7.5 even. I mean, just, watching a little bit of how it was made, I can't, it's unbelievable, the work that went into it.
8.
Oh.
8?
Mac's the artist in the group, so.
I mean, it's tough because like there's nothing there's no notes I have. I'm like, the whole thing I like, so I mean 10. Dare I say?
Like yeah. So what are you guys thinking then? Collectively, you can do an average out of that if you want. Right?
8.
8.5. The mix of all of us.
Yeah. 8.5?
8.5.
Oh, okay.
8.5. Boaz, what should we go with? I'm thinking 9s.
I'm going 9s. Yeah, I'm going a 9.
9.4.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, I think it's really gorgeous. I'll go. I'll go a 9.4 or a 5, maybe 9.5. Yeah,
9.5. Okay. Right, screenplay then. I found the opening scene before the title card really dark, not just because it's set at night and the mother is sailing these massive but beautiful looking waves, but she gets thrown off the boat and hits her head in the rocks. And you see blood, and I verbally made an out sound,
Yeah, same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty extreme.
Then Kubo, the voiceover at this point, says his grandfather stole something from him, and you see his eye is bandaged, and you're like, what the hell is this movie? Plus, I feel like the audience is implicit in the mother getting hurt, because Kubo says, please be warned, if you fidget, if you look away, if you forget any part of what I tell you, even for an instant, then our hero will surely perish. And then her head meets the rocks. Then you're like in the cinema going, who looked away? The film is trying to tell you that everything is important in this film, and it makes the audience part of the story in a way. And I thought that was a really cool idea, to set up this film that, this film is really bringing the audience into this, in this whole idea of, storytelling is really important to everyone. So I love that opening.
I like that little break in the fourth wall, but also I think for younger viewers, it sort of becomes more, you know, you're like kind of shaking them to pay attention. And it's intense, like you said, you know, and then it just sets you up, because I think the last thing he says before the title card is like, and that's the least of it, or something like that. And it's powerful. And I think that, you know, you do feel like more connected to it because you are being asked to pay attention. I loved that.
Me too. It worked on me.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, here we go.
I feel like more animated films need to do that with kids in the audience.
Yes.
Get them involved into the film early on. Like, you must pay attention, people.
And I think they should have a camera, and if people aren't paying attention, they should run a different ending where just everybody dies halfway in the movie. Just heads everywhere. And then, you know, they just stop the movie and they like, you know, everybody's like, what the fuck?
You know what you did.
And they're like, somebody wasn't paying attention. You know what you did. Get the hell out of the cinema. And great.
Yeah.
This feels very good. I like this idea.
I feel like this inclusion of the audience also continues when, you know, they have him telling the story to the village as well. You know, I feel like you said earlier, Martin, about like the powers feeling like they make sense in the world. It's like everybody's amazed by it, but not in a way of like, who's this freak? Like, they're all just like, whoa, this is amazing. And we all feel the same way. So I feel like we're a part of the village too.
Yeah. I like the sort of setup for throughout the story when they introduce things. Like, they don't just spell out everything to you. They kind of like feed you slowly some extra context. And I like that. Because even when, you know, he starts, he's like, you know, making origami things to like keep his mother, you know, like entertain his mother, and she's a bit out of it. And then she's like, you know, he needs to go to town and stuff. And then he sort of talks about, you know, maybe finish the story this time. You're definitely going to get money. And you're like, okay, what's going on here? And then he does his thing, and you're like, oh, that kind of, you know, it was all like setting that up, you know, his origami control powers, and you had no idea, but it was just gently setting that sort of stuff up. And I think it does that quite a lot in the film, which is pretty good. Like, just sets up some plot reveal.
Yeah, I find Kubo's mother really fascinating. Not Monkey, but his actual mother really fascinating. And I nearly put this in kind of directing just how good the puppetry or the animation work was in establishing what this character is, and where she's very silent, and when she's at the top of the mountain and when Kubo returns, she's still for a long moment, like she's in an epileptic absent state. And when she comes out of it, she's telling, you know, the same story again, like when we just seen Kubo perform in the village, and you're like, why are we being told this again? And then the mother forgets what happens in the fight at the castle with his father, Hanzo. Then you realize that this film is going to be about how important storytelling is in people's lives. And then the mother goes into this absent state again, and you could read it like we are nothing without stories. And then there's this kind of mental health reading in there as well. You know, this film is tackling like really adult themes. You know, this film is as much for adults as it is for kids. And that's probably one of my favorite scenes as well in the film. Just that very dark aspect of the film, certainly with the animation of how they just leave the mother being still, like she's completely lost and forgotten everything. It's quite dark. Did you guys find that was quite an affecting scene?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. Yeah, like, you know, you kind of get the feel of what it's like to sort of live with her. She's very lucid 1 minute, and she's telling stories and stuff, and then just doesn't know where the hell she is, and has kind of forgotten everything.
Definitely. Yeah. I feel like you get a peek inside what those years, since they don't show, you know, the period between him being an infant and then him being a child. And it's like the first time we see him as a child, he's feeding his mom and then even wiping like rice off her face. Like, that's brutal for a child to have to go through. Like, and to then still have these moments of light, you know, and then she forgets, like, what happened to your eye? You know, that would, you also know that this kid is so strong, like, for having to go through this. And there's still so much love. Like, he's not upset at her or anything. So I feel like
Yeah.
the pieces you put together in your mind, I like that they do that instead of showing some sort of like montage, until he's a child.
Yeah.
Like, you can just see it.
Yeah,
I also like the idea that the origami papers fly around sort of chaotically when she's sleeping, and he has to calm her down. That was an interesting way to depict that, and that he's taking the papers and, turning them into, these tools for storytelling in the village. That's a really wild idea.
I find it really interesting in what they don't show as well, because they could have made it into a really interesting sequence when, like, the little red Hanzo character is created. You don't see that; it just appears, and Monkey's like, "Who the hell is that?" I feel like they could have done that easily in this incredible world in this animation style, but they don't. They hold that back, and like, no, he just appears, and then all the other incredible animation is done with other, like, fight scenes. So I found that quite interesting, what they don't really show. What do we feel about, like, the mother reveal that it's Monkey? I mean, it's done in a very emotional moment when she takes out one of the aunties. For me, I was quite fine with it, and I feel like it's one of those things you kind of have to roll with, and that there's no perfect way to reveal that. Because I feel like if she did it right at the start, Kubo will be pretty freaked out. Like, what? My mother? What the hell? You're a monkey. So I feel like it has to happen at some point, but there's no perfect way to do it. So I feel like in that emotional moment is kind of the only way you can put it, and you kind of just roll with it, in my opinion.
I think I'm happier with her reveal than Hanzo's reveal, because I do think I love that monkey design.
Okay.
I loved the texture of her face and her fur, and I feel like, if they had that monkey with a missing eye, that would be like, oh, come on. But I feel like also, since her attitude is so different from the start, like, she's trying to be like, all right, come on, like, we really gotta. This is real. And that made her even more interesting to me, that she, is willing to, that she didn't like have her memories lost. Like, she was purposefully, trying to not be like cruel to him, but, be like, we got to get going. And I think that does make the mother reveal more emotional, because he hasn't ever seen her be this responsible too.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting, because she's like more of a, like, no nonsense. She's pretty aggressive, a warrior. It's just like, just get on with it, otherwise you're gonna die. Like, hurry up. It's like not trying to be his friend or anything. So it definitely doesn't seem like his mother. It's just somebody there to help him. Pretty kind of harsh teacher or something, like sensei.
Yeah.
So the character is very different.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty good reveal.
Yeah, I think with the father reveal, I think this is where kind of the film gets a bit murky and maybe gets a bit lost in what it's trying to say. But my reading of it is like the Moon King ended Hanzo's story, so that's when he kind of comes back into this beetle. Like, he doesn't know who he is at all.
I don't think he killed him. I just think he kind of wiped his memory, and so that's the way I kind of interpret it. Like, everybody just thought he was dead, that he killed him, but he didn't kill him. He just wiped his memory and then made him something else. So, that's kind of like killing him.
Yeah. Well, his story wasn't fully told, and that's why we don't know who he is. That's how I kind of saw it. But I think, is that where you were coming from, Christina, where the story gets a bit muddled for you?
Yeah. Well, I was just really confused by, like, the Hanzo, like the paper Hanzo guy and the beetle guy. I'm like, what?
Right.
How are these the same elements of the same character, or like what's actually who is that little paper guy?
I think they never sort of spell it out, but I think maybe the way I sort of interpret it, I suppose I've just got to interpret. Like, I think the paper Hanzo isn't the real Hanzo. It's not the spirit of the real Hanzo. I think it's kind of like subconsciously created and given a spirit by Kubo. So that's kind of, I think, how he perceives his father should act and look and stuff. So that's how I sort of interpret it. I could be wrong, but yeah, it never sort of says, really.
One thing I did really like about the father reveal was the little hint of, Kubo praying and not getting anything back. So you're like, okay,
Right.
he's out there. I really liked that. I thought
Yeah.
that was nice, subtle.
I do like that, definitely, yeah, in retrospect, because at the end when, he does the same lantern thing and the lantern lights and both of his parents are there, and it does make you think, like, the first time it didn't light and everybody else is light, you're like, his dad wasn't dead. Like, that's why. He wasn't dead, he just didn't know. And I'm like, that's pretty cool in retrospect.
So, favourite lines, people? Mine is the very first one. If you must blink, do it now. I think that's just a great opening to get your attention. Quinn, favourite line for you?
I'm gonna have to side with you on this one because it's just a beautiful bookend, to the repetition of it. It's powerful. I think it draws you in. I think that it makes you feel like you're doing something really important by watching this film. And I think that's really, I don't know. I don't see that a lot. I love that. I love the sort of subtle interaction.
Yeah. Not sword uncomfortable? I thought. Christina, you got a favorite?
Yeah, I like in the beginning when he's interacting with Monkey and he says, "Don't you say anything encouraging?" And she says, "I encourage you not to die."
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
I'll say the first line, but also I liked, I have a question. If I'm Beetle and you're Monkey, why isn't he called Boy?
Yeah,
that was pretty funny.
Boaz.
I can't find the quote right now, but it was something like, it's like the first time he meets Monkey, and she's like, you have 3 questions, and he's like, who are you? No, what the hell does he say? He's like,
why do I have 3 questions? Well, that's one.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was it. You remember it better than I do. Yeah, why do I have 3 questions? And this guy's okay, that's 1 question used. I quite like that.
And referencing another pod when we did Army of Darkness, I do love a bone pun. I got a bone to pick with you. See, because he's made a bone. You're an embarrassment.
Yeah.
Screenplay score, World of Horror. What are you going for?
9.
Still?
Yeah, I'm going to say 9.
Christina is not happy with that.
I liked it.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. But what do you think, Quinn?
All right.
I think the directing is better than the writing. So I think it makes sense that the directing score would be higher. But what do you think, Quinny?
8.
Okay.
I'm gonna go 6.8.
6.8. Wow. Okay.
6.8.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I was going to go 7.
Perfect.
I think I may have been a little bit confused too. So I think that hearing what you said, Christina, sort of harkened back to some feelings I had. But yeah, so that's why I went a little bit lower.
I personally just wasn't confused at all. So I feel like that, and I really liked a lot of the lines. Just hence my higher score.
Yeah. I think there's quite a lot of funny lines.
Maybe this is more of a, well, wait, Mac, what are you? What generation are you?
I'm on the cusp.
Are you a Zennial? You're a cusper?
I guess so.
Yeah.
They called me a millennial my whole life. Now I'm called Gen Z. I don't know. So we'll say 7.
Okay.
Nice.
I still really like the screenplay. As you guys probably know, we're very generous with scores.
Yeah.
I didn't have a massive problem with that, but with the screenplay, I get that, the father reveal and what's going on with the grandfather is a tad confusing at times. So, but I still really enjoyed it. So I'd probably go like an 8.3, 8.5.
That's interesting. I was also thinking I don't know, this is kind of maybe a weird criticism. I'd probably just make it a little longer, add something else in the middle. Because I did feel the quest was a tad too easy. So I don't know. Yeah, I would have added something. Okay. Yeah, I think so. I would have added a little something in the middle. But I can sort of understand it's so much effort to make a film.
You want them to suffer more?
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. Makes more an entertaining story. Yeah.
More fingers need to be lost from animators for Boaz.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. I also, one thing I didn't mention on the story, like the Moon King, I like the first time you meet him, he's just some sort of random old sage in a dream, and he's just so unlike what the mother talks about him. Well, it's like that he's evil. Like all that you've heard from him is he's evil. He's Cole, the king of darkness, and all this shit. And the first time he appears to Kubo, he's got no idea who he is, and he gives him advice on where to find the helmet, which turns out to be a trap. But he just seems like a nice old guy. And then second reveal, he's a lot darker. He kind of changes from that nice old guy into like an evil fucker. And I thought that was a pretty cool twist. I really like that.
I feel like that's real. Like I feel like that's very real for a kid. Of like, I've been told this, but I'm confused because I see something differently. Because also people don't act the same way towards children necessarily.
Yeah, so I just really like the dark elements of it, especially with the mother character. So 8.4, 8.5 I would be happy with.
Yeah, that's 8.3.
Yeah, okay. Voice acting then. I mean, I remember watching this for the first time, and I might sound stupid here, but I had no idea that Charlize Theron played the monkey and the mother. I think it's just because like the mother character is very like soft and caring, and then when you get to the monkey, Charlize Theron is very firm and assertive, aggressive at times to Kubo, but again is in this very caring way. Just two different types. So it did fool me for a few moments. So I really liked Charlize Theron in this movie. For me.
I wasn't as much of a fan. I do like Charlize Theron, but I just find it a bit weird that like all of the side characters are played by Japanese actors, but then all of the main characters are played by white actors. And I do feel like when you're telling a Japanese story, that's a bit odd. I feel like then you can tell they casted more for notoriety to get for more marketing to be like, look who's in the movie.
I will say, like, even though I like the lines of Matthew McConaughey, I wasn't like madly a fan of his voice acting.
Really?
No, I don't really think so. I think
you didn't like it when he shouted ah when the hand came up. You didn't like that? I thought it was great.
I think it could have been cornier. It could have been like a lot more. Do you know what I mean? I can't really explain it.
He kind of just sounds like Matthew McConaughey.
He just sounds like Matthew McConaughey. Yeah, it's like he just sounds like. Yeah, I think that's a great criticism. He sounds like Matthew McConaughey. It's like he doesn't sound like a stupid insect. He sounds like Matthew McConaughey.
I didn't even catch that it was him until I looked it up maybe halfway through the movie, though. So I didn't even feel like it was over the top Matthew McConaughey.
Quinn was convinced.
Well, Quinn, yeah, okay. But, like, didn't convince me, unfortunately. But, yeah.
I feel like there should have been a, all right.
Yeah, it would have fitted the character.
Yeah. These monkeys keep getting younger, but I stay the same age.
Oh, yeah. That would have been great.
Oh, dear.
Oh my.
But yeah, I mean, looking at the IMDb, it literally is every single main character is voiced by a white person, and I just find that icky.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
That is really offensive. I mean, but going back to Lion King, with Matthew Broderick being, the voice of an African king, it's like, well, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, but to be honest, I can sort of give the Lion King like some leeway because like everybody. No, actually, is it? Yeah, almost all the other characters. Actually, I think apart from Simba's mother, I think Simba's mother is African, but everybody else is like played by an American. No, but that's kind of interesting. But I mean, that's kind of par for the course. I think for American movies, if you want to get people to watch it, you can't. I think The Kid was pretty good.
Parkinson.
That's what I was going to say.
So actually, one that I definitely didn't know who it was, and that kind of blew me away, is I think the Moon King is Ray Fiennes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that was pretty damn good. I was like, I don't think I would have guessed that. But
he's scary.
Yeah, I thought he did a really good job.
Well, he does a similar thing to what Charlize Theron is doing. He's kind of playing two different roles.
Yeah.
Where he's this evil god like serpent, where he's very expressive, doing Voldemort times 10, and then at the end, he's this very innocent old man.
Like doty old man. Yeah.
Just wanting to know who he is from the villagers. So in his voice, he even sounds older and quieter than he actually is. I love the contrast there from Ralph Fiennes. I thought he was one of my favorite performances.
Yeah, I think he's one of mine. And he's used incredibly sparingly, like, really quite towards the end. So he's kind of this, just this presence, but I do like his voice. It's not what you expect, but I do like that he plays essentially two different kinds.
My favorite voice performance is Charlize Theron for me.
Cool.
Quinn, who would you go for?
I think I'm going to go with, I guess, Art Parkinson plays Kubo. I thought he was fantastic, but I don't know that actor very well. I thought Charlize Theron was great as well. Very, very good. Yeah. But I'm with y'all on the just having major qualms about the casting in terms of representation and things like that. But beyond that, just Kubo was fantastic.
Christina?
I'm gonna second Ray Fiennes. I thought he did the best.
Mac?
I'll second Charlize Theron because I think she was who I was most impressed by, and I just think I love her, and I just think her voice was also very pleasant to listen to.
Yeah.
Boaz?
I think I'm going to go Ray Fiennes.
Quite a mixed bag there. That's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So, voice acting score, World of Horror, what are you going for Kubo and the Two Strings?
I think I'm going to say 6, not to be rude, but just I also wish we would move more towards a trend of having voice actors who mostly do voice acting than just casting to have some big names on the poster. And I hate that trend.
I don't think anyone screwed up. I mean, I think everybody did fine. No pun. I mean, I don't even Matthew McConaughey, I think he's a fine actor. So he didn't, aside from having a really, I think, identifiable voice, that's not his fault. But so I think 6 is fine.
I would say 6, 7, maybe even Rooney Mara too. I needed to point out, plays the evil.
Oh yes.
And she's got a voice going that is both very horrifying and yet calming in ways as well. But she was great too. And I think just in terms of, I feel the same way about the casting, but in terms of the job that these actors did, I would say like 8 if I were just looking at the job that they did in this film, not looking at anything else involved.
7?
7.
Okay, 7.
Okay. Boaz, what should we go for then? 7.5? 7.7? Because I do agree with the controversy that, it would have been nice to have some more Asian representation in there.
Sure. Yeah, maybe at 7.8.
Cool. Right, let's add up the scores then for Kubo and the Two Strings. Kubo and the Two Strings gets 48.1, which is pretty good. But I have a feeling it's not going to stand a chance with the other film.
I don't think so.
That's it for part 1. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Check out part 2 to see who wins. But don't stop there. Get involved and tell us what your favourite films are relating to the episodes. Send us a DM or comment on Instagram and TikTok at Film vs. Film Podcast, for Twitter at FVF_podcast. If you do, we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. If you're feeling really generous, you can buy us a one-off coffee at our Buy Me a Coffee account. Remember, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Pod signing off. Thank you.